So this is my subject today. And before I do get started, I kind of want to share that leadership is truly what my background is. Through college, after college, I worked in human resources, consulting, and that's just kind of where my passion has been for a really long time, is in leading and understanding people. And then I think when I found fitness, I've been working in fitness for about 14 years. That is when that mind-body connection that we talked about earlier, like really came home for me, because I realized that it was not just my words, and that's what I've been using for so long, but it was also like this physical ability in myself to use every part of me to lead in a more dynamic way. So, like I said, I worked in human resources in California. I traveled around the country right after college doing consulting at different colleges, and gave leadership talks there. And that's just kind of where my passion for leadership and understanding people started. I think that this is truly like, I'm gonna go inside because they're doing the yard. Um, a true leader is not the one who has the most followers, but the one who creates the most leaders. And I think for all of us, when we think about building something in a room or having people connect with us in a room, that's truly what we're trying to do. I know that oftentimes as a coach, you're standing on a podium and you're leading the room through your actions, and you're on a microphone and you're under the spotlight. But for me, it's more about developing capabilities and strategies in people that they can use when they're not with you all the time. And I think that that's the testament of real leadership, is like the lasting impact you have on someone's thought process and how they cope and deal with hard things. So I think that's just like the thing that hit home for me, and kind of what everything I'm going to talk about revolves around. So I told y'all that I started in human resources, and I never really saw myself teaching fitness. I had a natural athletic ability, but would never consider myself an athlete. I never did anything besides dance and just running on my own. It was a part of myself that I discovered a little bit later in life, which I think is important to know, because oftentimes in this field, there's a lot of us who have been athletes for forever. And it was something I discovered about myself more in my early 20s, mid to early 20s. Um, and it started when I was actually preparing to get married and just started exercising more often. And the leadership part of me started coming out in class, as I was taking bar in San Francisco. And the owner of Bar Method, Burr Leonard, owned that studio at the time. And about 3 months in, she was just like, "You have this natural ability to lead the room. And would you coach for me?" And so that was just kind of the beginning of my coaching, is just in San Francisco, someone seeing an ability in me. And I think so often that's where it starts for a lot of people, right? It's maybe you don't see it in yourself, but it's called out in you. So I always call that like the call to leadership, the call to your potential. That oftentimes someone has to see it, someone has to speak it, and then you have to believe it in yourself. So I think as coaches, that's oftentimes what we're doing, right? We're breathing life into people and calling them higher, and realizing, I think, when we're standing on the podium, that there's a lot of people who have never heard someone tell them, like, you have a natural ability to lead, or I see you leading from this bike in the back row, like you don't even need to be on the front. I feel the energy you're giving this room. And so the potential we have to call someone into their leadership, and then building habits and strategy to reach their potential. I was talking to my mentor about this when I knew I was doing this talk this weekend. And he was really insightful and just basically said, "I never want anyone to depend on me to lead. I never want anyone to feel like they need to just constantly be in the room with me. I want to build strategies and mindset and kind of leverage and coping mechanisms, so that wherever they are, at home or on a walk or doing something else hard, what we've learned together carries them through that hard thing as well." And I think that that's what's so awesome about what we do in a bike room, right? Is that it's really, really hard. You're by yourself and you're choosing to make it hard. I think that's one of the most amazing things about riding the bike, right? Is that it's not, you know, like we're not lifting an 800-pound weight over our heads. We're choosing to add resistance. We're choosing to keep the beat. It's like that constant choice and paving that path in your mind. But as leaders, keeping people accountable to that and helping them understand like how that mindset can shift into everything else they're doing. Is this making sense so far? We good? Okay. Also, I think a lot of times there's a shift. Like you see confident people and you're like, oh, the confident person is leading the room because of confidence. And I think confidence comes naturally to some people, but I also think that it's built over time. How many times have you had a writer who stepped in your room the first time completely scared and just white in the face, unsure of what's happening? And you're like, hey, just stick with me. And I promise the more and more you come back, the more comfortable you're going to feel. And I feel it's that same way about coaching. It's the same way about doing anything new and hard, is confidence comes from repetition. So in coaching, I try to use the mindset and the strategy of repeating myself a lot. Does anyone else do this? Like repeating the same cues every class, or using the same exact strategy in the midst of a hard thing, like using the same verbiage every time, like repetition, so that it's ingrained in your mind. Does anyone have like a certain strategy for that, or something that they say continuously, and then it's what you strategize with when you're in the midst of a hard thing? So I usually say, calm your mind, like all the time, calm your mind. And I feel like I hear that when I'm out in the world doing other hard things, is just like this constant repetition in my mind of calm your mind. And so my writers hear that too, calm your mind. Stay in your body, calm your mind. Um, and I think confidence, like I said, for an action is developed with repetition, right? Like if you were to go run a mile every single day, you're going to get better at the mile, and you're going to feel more excited to run the mile, and you're going to be more confident in your ability to run a mile. And if you want to lead someone, this is where the shift happens for me, where it is like, I want to be really good at something and I want to lead someone to something, right? Like the depth of understanding for me personally, I think what I've discovered over time is I like to lead people to what I've done so many times that I'm currently working into the next step, almost like the captain of a ship, right? Like when I'm leading my team of coaches, what I'm currently learning myself is maybe 2 steps ahead of what I'm leading them through, almost like I'm clearing the brush to prepare them for what's next. And it's easier for me to strategize my team to what I know is coming, right? Like if we were on a journey together, I'm looking ahead and I've already walked the path they're in multiple times so that I can give them the best strategies to get through it. A lot of people, I post this a lot on my page, but I feel like all the people in this Zoom get it. People call me crazy all the time for how much that I move my body or how invested I am in working out every day. And I know that's universal for everyone on this call right now. But it's not so much for me about the actual physical movement. It's about understanding my mindset and what I have to do the hard thing. Does that make sense to everyone? Like, it's like the depth of how hard does it have to be for me to have to want to turn it off, and how do I turn it back on, and how do I relay that message? So that's the confidence in repetition, is like doing it over and over and over again. And I think that talking to so many coaches at Ride the World, where we all were like, oh, I train, I love to learn from different people all the time. It's the same thing, right? Your confidence is coming from repetition and also learning it in different and new ways. I heard a long time, does anyone know Angela Manuel Davis? She used to coach for a really long time, but she said something to me that I tell my team pretty often. And it's when I'm feeling depleted, or Alicia, we've had conversations about this too, is, we'll message back and forth with other coaches, and maybe Alicia will be like, oh, I just feel really tired. I feel really burned out. And I'm like, are you being fed? Like, are you being fed, right? Because how often are you pouring out, but you're not refilling your cup? So, and it's just like nutrition, really, in the same way. Like whatever you're filling your mind and your heart with is what will pour out of you. And if you come to the point where there's nothing left, there's nothing to pour out. So that constant investment in learning and understanding your heart as well, whether that's journaling and having some self-discovery through that, or reading a book as a team, or listening to a podcast, or investing in a talk like this. It's the whole mindset of, yes, I'm going to build my confidence through repeating a process over and over again so I can understand it. But beyond that, I'm going to feed my heart, because we know that the most incredible coaches that I've heard from, like, are truly speaking from their heart in an authentic and relevant way. And that comes from them constantly developing a mindset and feeding their heart and feeding their soul. So that concept of being fed, I feel like is a big one. And as we get busier, especially with new coaches, it's oftentimes, to me, the first thing that's neglected, right? You're like, I'm too tired, I'm too busy, I have to plan my playlist, forget about the book, forget about the journaling. But it's the concept of being fed. And so that's something that Angela told me a long time ago that I just think about really often when I'm feeling depleted is, am I being fed? Whether it's through faith or whatever it is that fills you up. And then relatability. I think anyone who trains at a high level, this is a big one. Like I talked about earlier, to me, when I think about leading a team, because I have a coach team of about 9 coaches, and then I'm training a few more right now, and constantly just developing programs for all of us. Relatability is important, right? But also to know that you want to understand a process completely. Like if we were together right now, we were going to learn math. If I was teaching you math, would need to know the next level of that math so that I could really make it make sense to everyone. It's the same thing in coaching to me, is that if I want to give you the more baseline perspective of something, I need to have the high level perspective so that I can see it. So I can pan out and I can see the foreground and the background of the picture and know what's the most important part to draw out in you, and then what's the most important part to let go for a second. Like as the coach and as a leader of a team, you have to see both. You have to see like the full picture. And as I'm saying this, just know I don't do it perfectly. I have one of my coaches on here right now, Whitney. We're constantly growing, right? We're always learning together. But the relatable piece I think is important is I want to show them what's possible. I know sometimes we downplay things, but I work at a high level because I want to show people that it's possible to work at a high level. Oftentimes, in the same way that I talked about people breathing life into you and telling you they see your potential, oftentimes as a leader, I think it's your job to say, hey, this is really hard, and I'm going to show you that it can happen, and then I'm going to help you walk through it, like walking the walk, talking the talk together. And then, so this is a big one to me because I thought about this for a long time. Passion doesn't start. Has anyone started a new project and just automatically they were passionate about it? Anybody? Like, does that just happen? No. Like it's literally impossible. There's no way that even if there's something that's meant for you, right? Like even if it's your destiny to do something incredible, the first time you do it, you're going to be bad at it, right? Like it's just the nature of it. But to me, what keeps you coming back to that thing to eventually develop passion is curiosity, right? So if there's a part of you, like the first time you do something, probably for everyone on this call, the first time you took a cycle class, it was probably hard, you were probably overwhelmed, but there was a piece in the back of your mind that said, what if? Like, look at these amazing people in here. What if that was me, right? Or what if I could lead a room like this? Look at that coach on the podium. What if that was me? Or what if I committed to this? What would it look like? What would it feel like? How would I change, right? And so I think as coaches, igniting curiosity is a pathway to passion, right? Like, and if we're thinking about developing other leaders in the room, we want to develop passionate people who want to take what we're giving them and bring it to a higher level as well. So igniting curiosity. And then creating passion, like I said, carving that creativity, and then through repetition, developing some confidence in that curiosity and being like, wow, I'm getting better, I'm getting better, I'm getting better. And then all of a sudden you feel good enough about it to be passionate about it. So in the way of being like, I've been curious about this, I'm going to keep it to myself and I'm going to keep trying. And then all of a sudden, a couple months in, maybe you're like, hey, do you want to come to this cycle class with me? I've been doing it for a while and I feel like I'm getting good at it and it's really fun. And that's the passion starting to build. And then from the passion, I feel like it keeps growing into what becomes discipline and what becomes leverage to keep going to a higher level. So when you think about developing leaders in a room, whether it's on your team or it's just in the room, a group of athletes, I think that igniting curiosity is a huge, huge piece for me. And I think that's why as coaches, you're constantly creating new choreography or playing with new music. You want to ignite curiosity all the time and cultivate a passion through that. So curiosity, repetition in the process to build passion. And then from that, the accountability of a room and building a team mindset so that there's accountability for someone to keep growing. And then, so in fostering leadership, I think that there's a huge part, and this is kind of, I'm excited for Valentina to talk about this later. The part of self, right, in fostering leadership, I think that it feels like a service job. And oftentimes as coaches, it is a service job, right? My service, when I think about it, is to invest in people and help them see their highest potential and guide them to that potential, right? That's my job. And I know that it feels exciting to have a microphone on and be under a spotlight and all of that, but it's really a service job. Our job is to invest in people and bring them to their highest potential. But also in that, I think you have to lead yourself in the same way. I think you have to build yourself in the same way that you're building other people. I think you have to look yourself in the eye every day and say, I'm capable of this, I want this, keeping your vision at the core of it all. I heard a visual recently and it's just been really ringing in my ear. So I'm going to share it with you guys. It was, imagine your dream is a tree. So the bigger the tree, the more rooted it is, the more sturdy it is, right? Your discipline is a rope tied to the tree. So every day, if you dream really big and you wake up in the morning and every part of you wants to lay in the bed and you're like, oh, I'm supposed to lead this team, but my real goal was just to run, one class today. That's not a really big dream, right? So it's going to be easier for you to say, just fall back asleep. But the bigger your dream is, the more rooted it is, the more leveraged those ropes of your discipline are, right? If your dream is to travel the whole world, Ophelia, and coach at some amazing studios, that's a bigger dream, right? Like that's going to get you up in the morning. If you're like, no, like the discipline of this rope that's tied to this really big dream I have, no matter how tired I am, it's going to pull me out in the morning, right? So I think as a leader and as a coach, have a really big dream. Beyond just leading a room, have a really solid, rock solid dream, like dream crazy. Make it something so out of the box that there's no way that dream will not pull you out of the bed in the morning because it's what your discipline is tied to. It's like what the leverage of your discipline is tied to. So I always say, as a person, personally, outside of coaching the room, have something that makes you passionate too. Because as you coach people to doing really great things, you have to be doing the same, right? You have to be building to your own dream. And then influence and guidance, like I talked about before, we have a platform, but it's a service job. And I think it's easy to get lost in the show, which is important. We all love to put on a good show. It's fun to play fancy music and do the moves. But at the end of the day, really remembering that your words have a lot of weight. Who in this room has like certain coaches that they follow that you have them in your head all the time? Renata, I know that you have Gab in your head all the time. Like certain things he says are ingrained in your mind. And so there's certain things like Akin is my mentor and I hear him all the time. If my booty ever touches the saddle, I hear no touch, no tap, no touch, no tap. Like in my head, it's just replaying. There's certain little things. And that's a small thing that probably he wouldn't even notice, but I love learning from another coach because I realize the impact of my words. Like they are replaying in one of my athletes' minds right now. And that's pretty incredible, but also, take that in, that what you're saying matters. So take it to heart and really plan your thoughts and your influence. And like I said before, personal growth allows you to articulate growth. So I constantly, I tell Whitney, who's on my team and on this call, I like to do insane, crazy, hard things every single day of my life, because the more that I do them, the better I can understand how to say them out loud, right? Like doing an 11-minute run, looking at it and being like, God, there's no way that I could do that. And then slowly over time, realizing what coping mechanisms I need, or what verbiage I need to say in my head over and over and over again, or finding a meditative state in my body. If I'm not learning how to do those things myself, like I can't guide a room to that, right? It's that whole concept of steering your team to really amazing things. But to do that, you have to have done it first yourself. And then show them the way. Like I said, just the weight of your words. And at the end of the day, coping strategies and mental toughness. The goal is never really like to find happiness, right? The goal is to seek joy. The goal is to have that joy be leverage over all your dreams. And the goal is to have discipline be so strong in you that you can accomplish anything. I think at the end of the day, as coaches, that's really what we want. We want to build strong, resilient people who can do amazing things. And yeah, it's physical when we're in that room together, and it's about bonding together and having this whole connected energy. And that's amazing and that's cool. But when you think about it, if you were to step away, like what would be the goal for each individual in that room? It would probably be, hey, I want you strong and resilient enough that you could take this world and add all the value that you're capable of adding, right? And so it's about building coping strategies in the midst of a hard thing, choosing to do a hard thing, choosing to lead through a hard thing, and then the mental toughness to keep showing up. And then just the growth mindset constantly. I think that's something that's passionate for all of us. And like I talked about earlier, I think as coaches and leading people to that, it's that curiosity building into passion, to keep people from saying, oh, that's too hard, I could never, to, oh, but what if I stuck with it? And what if I tried? And I wonder what it would look like. And maybe I'm not there yet. Just infusing that growth mindset into everything you do and say, so that it becomes something that they continue to build to. I told one of my coaches a few days ago, she called and was just frustrated about something. And she was just like, I'm just mad they don't understand. And I said, it's never about expecting them to meet you where you are. It's you having a higher understanding and meeting them where they are, right? Like you have to have an ability in you to have a first-time writer, a writer who's been with you for every class since you've ever taught, and meet them all where they are with your words, which yes, is a hard thing to do. But I think that's the most important part of building leaders, right? Like someone doesn't need to be a coach to be a leader. That's when I'm going to lean on my writer who's been with me for every class. And they're going to feel really encouraged by the fact that I called them out, and by the fact that I pointed to them, and by the fact that I used them as an example. And then it's going to build the middle ground of the people who are kind of not all, at the highest level yet, and they're not brand new. They're going to be like, oh, but this girl next to me is an example, and I want to be like that. And then the new person feels encouraged that it's not just about the coach, it's about the whole room, it's about the community. And that is my little talk. But I wanted to open up lots of time for questions and just have a really open dialogue.
Thank you so much, Catherine. So yeah, please, if you have questions, you can put them either in the chat or just jump in.
So I do have a question. So you talk about leaders off the bike, right? That they're not coaches, that they're leaders, writers. So how do you encourage those writers to just make everybody else in the room comfortable? Because I've been around writing for a little bit now, and there are times that people get frustrated in certain classes, especially people try more difficult classes. And I know coaches sometimes rely on certain writers to create that confidence room, but how do you encourage people that not necessarily want to be a coach, but you do know they have certain leadership on the other side of the room?
It's a good question. So I think the most amazing thing about a cycle room is when I look, I don't know, in my room, and this is probably true for most of you guys, like I might have someone who's a badass doctor on the front row, And then I might have someone who's a student in the back row, oh, eating some salad, Alicia. And there's just like a variety of different talents. And the doctor does not want to become a cycle coach. That's not her goal, right? Her goal is to grow from the inside out. But it's still the process of watching someone work through something really hard. That's the most inspirational part, right? I talk about this a lot in my class, and I'm sure you feel it too. It's not at all about someone doing it perfectly, right? I'm never super inspired by someone doing it perfectly. I'm super inspired by someone giving all they have, all they're capable of, and fighting like hell. Like that is the most inspirational thing to me. And so I think calling that out and showing that as the goal, right? So when you see that fight in someone, it doesn't matter if it's perfect, it doesn't matter if it's perfectly on beat, but like celebrating that, I think gives permission to fail, which, we're not building perfection. If we were building perfection, all of us would give up because it's really hard in this field of what we're doing. But celebrating the fight and celebrating someone giving all they have and allowing everyone else to see like, hey, it doesn't have to look like perfection. It has to look like I'm giving all I'm capable of. I think that that's kind of where the balance is, right? And not always, yes, it's great to point to the person who's perfectly solid on the beat the whole time, but also celebrate the big fight in the back row of the person who doesn't want to be a cycle coach, but man, they showed up and like talk about a mindset shift. I'm inspired by that person.
Okay, I have one question in the chat. Once you explore curiosity to generate and ignite passion, what's the transition between passion to discipline? How do you keep those riders that don't necessarily want to be on the next level, but some others do? How do you balance that kind of energy? Class, especially moving forward on coaching and giving a community to from point A to B and C, etc.
So I think it's cyclical, right? Like I think that it's like the curiosity has to keep coming. Like that's why so many of us are still in this game because it's not the same as it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Like we feel like we're at the front of it because I'm still curious all the time. Like I feel like the bar is not where it was. Like it keeps going higher. And so it's the continued process of circling back to curiosity, right? And I think that can be the frustrating part of this sometimes is to be like, I feel like I just arrived at my best and now I'm like falling back again, but it's not that because you're continuing to grow stronger. So the process of once you can stand on the passion that these people are invested, that they love cycle at this point, but keeping them invested in curiosity. And so they're curious. And then it's that process I talked about of the leverage of your discipline to the big dream. So help them to find a bigger dream so that it's that process of I'm curious if I could reach a higher level. My dream is that higher level. And then my discipline is what's going to tie me to it. So every morning when I wake up, I'm like, oh, I'm really curious about what I'm capable of. And my dream is to, get to the highest level of this or ride front row, ride the world or whatever your dream is. And that's going to get you out of the bed in the morning because you're like curious if I could possibly do this. And then your dream is what pulls you out and the leverage of your discipline. So it's kind of a cycle, right? So continued processes of us changing our classes all the time and having new things that are built, but doing it repetitively enough that people can build confidence. Once they build confidence, they're standing on a new level. And then you build back some curiosity, build them back up to that new level, and then you keep on stepping it up. That's what it is to me. But any other coaches might have thoughts on this too. I would love to hear.
So, do you have other questions?
Oh yeah, I have some question.
Yes.
So I really like how you put the metaphor in like all these like magical like passion and point. So I want to know like what is your personal code words when we are at like minute 10 of 11-minute run? Like
Yeah.
when everyone really need the last beat to finish. What is your code word? What is the word that you push people to the point? And what's the story behind it?
Okay. So
Yeah.
if anyone else in here is a dancer, you're going to understand me on this. Most of the time, it's really boring in my head. I'm counting 8 count after 8 count after 8 count after 8 count. And I tell myself at some point, it's going to be the last 8 count if I keep counting, which is so not exciting at all. But I oftentimes am counting in 8 counts. If it's a really long run, then I have to get into like a completely meditative state where I have to just like go into this self-talk where I'm like, release your hands, loosen your jaw, relax your upper body. Like I have to like almost go through that meditative state of like completely releasing my upper body so that I can completely use my lower body. But if it's in a fight and it's like a choreographed run and I can't let go, then oftentimes in my head, I'm just like, you want it more than this. You want it more than this. You want it more than this. You want it more than sitting down. You want it more than sitting down. Like you want the growth more than you want the rest, you know, like just, you want it more than this. That's usually what I say over and over again, is my self-talk. But when I'm coaching, it's a little bit more of me pulling out. I know a lot of my writers well enough to know like what their baseline dream is or what they've already worked through, to call them higher in their own ways. But usually it's, I want it more than this. Anybody else?
Thank you so much.
Sebastian, you
can I
know
ask-
the answer. It's get the fuck up.
I know.
Fuck up. It's so
I need to
simple.
know the other stories.
Everybody's so nice. I'm like, get up.
She's like, get the fuck out, step.
To be fair, I'm
can I ask one
violent in my
question?
head.
Yes, go ahead, Thomas.
I love how you just did this curiosity thinking about the writers itself and everything. And how would you think would be the process like for new writers? Some people are actually really curious, like from their first write is just natural, but sometimes people that they don't know what they're actually doing on their first write ever. And then how do you think you'd like ignite this curiosity on newer writers? I know it's something that like sometimes it comes from within, like from my own experience. I loved it from the first time I wrote it. I was just like very curious about it, and that's how my process is. But I don't think that's how it is for everyone. Some people like just, okay, I'm doing this in or second class, and then you go over there. And then how do you think you ignite this curiosity in newer writers?
So I think always I try to build my class this way in like a scalable way. So there's something that they can feel accomplished in. If they come in and there's zero accomplishment, there's no chance that person is coming back, even if they're curious about it. If there's not a single step of it they felt like they could sort of accomplish. So giving achievable goals, like I always focus on riding to the beat in the saddle. And even on those slower beats, maybe they're able to accomplish 8 counts. And because I have a dancer mind, oftentimes I'll coach this if I have a lot of newer writers. Hey, when you want to give up, commit to 8 more counts. Just push for 8 more counts and celebrate the win. And that's going to build and compound over time. So I think giving them something to achieve gives them a level of that confidence, right? That we talked about, like repetition is going to build confidence. But even if they can succeed once or twice in your class, it could be enough to make them come back with the curiosity of, hey, I succeeded for 8 counts and it was only 8 counts of a 45-minute class, but I wonder if next time I could do more, right? So achievable goals, I think, is the best way, and celebrating wins in that, because I think we all need that. I mean, there's days where my body does not want to hit the beat. I have to celebrate really tiny wins. And there's some days where it feels really good and I can do all the things, but tiny accomplishable goals is to
Yeah.
me.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Catherine.